Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back. All right. So, Emily, did you see how foggy it is outside? Yes. We never have fog here, ever. It's too dry. Literally, I can't see at all. It's like being in a cloud up here. It's rained tremendously the last week here. Almost, it's rained every day, and which is exactly what, sometimes people complain about the weather, but we definitely um, need the water here. And then there's this whole thing. I'm going to go on a trip right now just for a second. Louisa, by the way, your little the little Aladdin's lamp you gave me is a wonderful incense holder. Yeah. Um, the outer world and the inner world, what's the relationship between them? Right. And we spend a lot of time in sutra talking about um, by the way, again, it would be lovely to see your beautiful faces. um, we spend a lot of time talking about the logic of everything, and we spend time talking about like where things are coming from. And then there's this aspect of what is the relationship between our inner, like our body and mind, like this sort of inner world, and then what's happening on the outer world. And if you've been around long enough, my hope, you know, my hope is that you've had an experience where you've changed something in just the way you think. Like, and again, you changing, that's not necessarily what changed, right? So that's an interesting question. Like, if you experienced it as a change in like your thought, you're like, well, what if I thought differently about this? Maybe there's another way to look at this, you know, but something shifted inside of you. And then all of a sudden, your whole outer world changed. The people in your world changed. Marina, are you paying attention or are you typing on the phone? You're typing on the phone. Don't expect me to teach you people. And if you're not paying attention when I'm teaching. So, but what is that like? If you've ever had that sort of more immediate experience, like what is that? What is the relationship between your inner and your outer? What is your relationship with, you know, is it possible to change everything quickly? And I was talking about this yesterday. I was having a meeting. We were having a very important yet boring policy meeting yesterday. What I mean by boring is that I hate doing those things. I hate making rules and telling people how they should and shouldn't behave because we already have those rules. They're called I don't know, the 10 virtues or the bodhisattva vows, right? We should be able to think through what the consequences of our actions are. We should, right? Now, the beauty about being human is that, you can be told to do something 500, 3,000 times and still not do it. Right. So that's the reason why we have classes all the time. That's why we repeat things over and over again. But in this policy meeting, we were talking about, you know, we were actually talking about like the ethics of relationships and work and the relation and meaning like romantic relationships and the relation like the ethics of like what happens when a student meets a teacher or a teacher meets a student and there's a spark, or one person feels the spark but the other one doesn't, and then what happens, you know and we were talking about how sometimes karmas are so concrete, like the karma has come out so much, right, that nothing can change it, seemingly, right? Being born a human, for example, right? You can do all you want, in the next 20 years to try to become a dog. You can even dress up like a dog. You could do all those things, but you're not going to be thinking like a dog. That karma hasn't thrown yet. The karma of being a human came out, and that has a certain time associated with it. Maybe, and then, I've seen, I've seen people for years and years and years who like want to be with this one person and they can't get the karma to change. And they're like, oh, it's just seeds. I'll change the seed. You know, maybe the seed is something different, right? Like, why would you be attracted to impossibility? Like, oh, if I fight hard enough, like, right. You know, and then, but at the same time, you know, we say everything can change in any moment, right? Like it could change, right? That karma could change. You could become a dog in a single moment. You could become an angel in a single moment. The person who that person who said no for 20 years says yes on year 21 in a single second, right? But, what about the 20 years of afflictions, right? And what are the, what's right behavior and what's wrong behavior? Like what's behavior that's going to help you and what's behavior that's not going to help you? And so like, and if you've been paying attention in ACI 15 at all, I'm not going to give you the answer. Okay. This is not, you know, what do you do with a message that says, right? The message that's like, oh, anything can change, everything can change in a single moment. And there's certain karmas that come out that are that are like concrete, they're hardened concrete that you could try for a lifetime, 2 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes to change, and it won't change. What do you do with that? Right? My advice is, and this is just personal advice, is don't beat your head against the wall. Don't keep doing the thing that causes you the affliction. And next life, I don't know. I don't want to wait till next life, but, you know, I move around my afflictions. I just walk along the brick wall until like I'm at the end of it, then I go around it. Like, but again, because the thing that causes you the most affliction, why sit in the thing that causes you the most afflictions? Why, why suffer more than you have to? How about that? Why keep adding to it? Why keep adding fuel to it? Because there's already enough. Our bodies are already getting old. Sorry. We are 4 days older than the last class. Do you feel 4 days younger, older, the same? I don't know. If I'm really honest about those 4 days, like what was going, like things are always changing. Like my experience of me changes. And who is that me that's changing? So I want to offer hope and I also want to offer reality, right? Things can change, they will change. And then, but how you look at it and how you face it is completely up to you. You know, up to your seeds. Okay. You know, that doesn't, if you're able to if you have this seed to be able to change, like have this seed to be able to change your mind, how you think about something, right? Like the label that comes out has certain power. And if you can understand what that label is, if you can understand the nature of the name, you then have power over it. Until you don't understand it, you don't understand the power of the mental image, then you're just going to be stuck. And then if you're constantly looking for that, what is me? What is the name that I'm giving to this? Not just the name, oh, sickness or person who doesn't want to be with me for 20 years, you know, your human life, war, you know, autocracy, you know, people, whatever it is. We just decided that it's okay in the United States that we can take the military and put it onto, go into our own cities. Oh, that's wonderful. Great. Which is against the law, apparently. Right. Like what country am I living in now? Now it's militarized. Great. Put that up on YouTube though, if I don't ever come back, you guys know that the government took me. But don't worry, I'll just do a 20-year retreat in silence in darkness if they let me live. I'm not a dissident, but so but some of these things are really big, but they also have names, they have labels, right? Your sickness, the way you view yourself. And then when someone comes along and maybe gives you a different label, like how about this? Have you ever gotten sick and you go online and you're like, I wonder what my symptoms mean? Oh my God, I have a degenerative neurological disease that I'm going to die with in 2 to 3 years. And you're being silly. Most of the time we're being silly, right? But then something happens where that becomes the truth. And that name that you put onto those symptoms became your reality, right? And then you go to the doctor, and I went to the doctor recently and doing the exam and everything. And he was like, "Oh, did you look up your symptoms online?" And I was like, "Unfortunately, yes." Right. Did the rest of the exam and talked to me. Turned out that he's a Buddhist. Surprise. Gave me his phone number. He wants to do retreats. He's a retiring neurologist. But then, the first thing he was like, "Well, look, you don't have this, this, and this. Your top three gone." Right. And because he's a trusted authority, I'm like, okay, then all of a sudden, poof, gone, vanished. Right. In a single second, my reality went away, vanished, totally changed. I'm no longer dying in 2 to 3 years. Right. Well, thank you. Did I really think I was dying? No. The rational part of my mind was like, right. But there's a deeper part of us that believes the word. We believe the label so much that becomes our reality. You know, you hear of people who come back from stage 4 cancer. Why do some people die? Why do some people live? Right. You know, like why do 99% of the people that have my father's cancer die in 6 months? And my dad has lived 12 years now? Same cancer, right? But like, what is the difference? And when you have the power over the word and understand its nature, then you can change it. All of a sudden, a new label comes along. Same parts, different label. But the thing is, you react to the labels that you have. And that's the problem. It's not the label's problem. Okay. Is your reaction to it. You experience it in a certain way, and then you have certain reactions. And then those reactions, are, of course, are more labels. And of course, then they become more real. See what happens? Like, this is why being in nirvana is wonderful because you don't react. Like, an arhat still has a body, right? Still has a, but they don't react to it. No, neurological disease, kidney disease, war. Okay, what do I do now? It doesn't phase them. It doesn't, it's not even it's like, okay, it's so just, that's what it is right now. Those are my seats, right? But our problem is the reaction. And then the reaction becomes the reality. And then you're reacting to the reaction. And you forgot about the thing that originally created the reaction. And what created the reaction was not only did the label come out that's called dying in 2 to 3 years, but then all the emotions that are tied to that. All the way you think about it. I had a beautiful conversation yesterday with someone who was worried about they had for years had not eaten meat and then ate something, right? And was worried about it and felt bad. You know, and there's this no judgments, first of all, A. Okay, right? If you're really honest with yourself, you would never go anywhere. Your car kills numerous beings. I killed a bug yesterday that was something was on my arm and I went to scratch it and I was like, and it went and I smashed it. And I was like, oh man, buddy. Like, did some mantras and, made an offering and whatnot. But, like, did I feel that pain for a quick second? Yes. But it's our reactions, like the judgments we place upon ourselves for the things that we do. The way that we see ourselves doing something is also incredibly important. You know, and then watch the cascade of emotions and the cascades of thoughts, because that's what's actually more important. Yeah, please don't do things that hurt others. Do your best. Okay, good. Right. But watch the cascade of guilt and shame that comes up when you do something. And if you stick around for Lam Rim in an hour and a half, we're going to talk about that, because that's the gotcha. That's the thing that you need to deny, because you can watch yourself in it and say, I am this, I am this, I am this. The stronger the I becomes, the better your emptiness practice can become. You know, because there's no reason, like, there's no inherent reason why, if you did something, you know, maybe you did something mean, maybe you had a negative thought, maybe we're not bad people, we're just doing minor things, and then you have a whole series of reactions. The event itself doesn't have to create the reaction. You created the reaction, and then you went on a trip. You went on an internal emotional trip. Your internal landscape tripped you out. But if you can have those moments where the label changes, and then the world changes immediately. The people around you change. You've changed. You and your world, according to the mind only school, are coming from the same seed. Yes, the mind and the body are different substances, but they're coming from the same seed. Change you, change the world. If you can change that immediately, then your world can be entirely different, and it will be different. And hopefully you've had a taste of that. Your prana changes, the world changes. Change you, change the world, right? Stop trying to change the world. Okay. You're more advanced. Oh, I want more money. That's an outer thing. I want the perfect relationship. That's an outer thing. Oh, just do the 4 steps. Okay, good. That's what we learn. Be generous with others. Go to the nursing home. Take care of other people's hearts. Respect other people's relationships. Sure, those are all good things, and you should do them, and you should keep doing those things. I didn't say don't do those things. Careful. But if you go to the level of who you are, you and your world are so intricately connected that unless you change you, your world ain't going to change very much. What is it that makes a pen versus a chew toy? You is a human. Good luck, interpreters. You is a human because you see a pen. You're not a human first and then see a pen. In fact, I'm going to go Nagarjuna for a second. But because you see a pen, that's what makes you human. Because you see a dog, because you see a chew toy, that's what makes you dog. Dog, human. Okay. As long as you keep seeing things normally, you're going to stay normal you. So what if you start seeing things differently? And I'm suggesting someone just asked a question. Oops, where'd it go? Her son is incredibly overweight. What can I change in myself to see him healthy? You know, there's nothing in the size of a person that makes them healthy or unhealthy. That's all I can really say. Like, there's something in us that sees someone who's very heavy as unhealthy, right? But what is very heavy? What's, you know, and that's a question, right? And then we have then the shame that comes with all of it, right? The way that we see ourselves, the way you look at yourself when you look at others and compare yourself. So making a shift of imagining who you are. Who could you be? Do you want to see more of something or less of something? And what types of beings would see something different? And that's the essence of Diamond Way, right? That's why we're studying Mind Only School, class 8 on whatever day it is, September 29th, 2025. Somehow it's been 25 years since it became 2000s, but I still say 19 sometimes. That's what happens when you get old. You forget. Some of you weren't even born until 2000. Makes me sad, but beautiful. Right. But here we go. Like, the power of the I, you know, the power of the self, the label that comes out, the image that comes out, the name that comes out, the power of it. It's so powerful that it creates such a reality that reality is real for you, right? That's what we call deceptive reality, kunsukdemba. That's what we call fake reality, illusory reality. Why is it called deceptive? Because it's deceptive to a state of mind, to a deceived state of mind, particularly, right? You think there's a pen there, right? You think there's a overweight person who's unhealthy there, right? It's deceiving you. I mean, deceiving you to the point that it's still functioning. Okay, that's the other trick of the middle way. It's still functioning, but it's how, like, what do we mean by what's, if it has a deceptive part, like there's also the other side of it, which means like, what is the ultimate part? Like, what does it mean to be ultimate? Right. And we can say the words, but you have to be careful in your understanding of them. Ultimate means the fact that no existing thing has any self nature. We've said it a billion times. Nothing has any nature of its own. While it appears to be coming from itself. That's the deceptive part. It is coming this way. You, in fact, are coming this way. Your understanding of yourself is wrong too. And that's why things don't change. That's why the hard concrete gets harder. Because not only is that hard concrete like out there deceiving you that it's hard concrete, you're also being deceived by your own self. Yourself, you think yourself is coming from itself. Okay. And so slowly over time, you can do the 4 steps and you can get results. Yes. But eventually you have to turn to their own view of you. Because you can change that, then you can change a lot of things. Right. So those two truths together, right? We call them truths, realities, denbas. We have ultimate, you've heard these words, ultimate truth, ultimate reality, deceptive, right? Like a Buddha, the only thing that the difference between a Buddha and us is that they're 100% not deceived by deceptive reality. Well, it's not the only difference, but it's a huge difference, right? They're able to see the true nature of things, that nothing is coming from itself. And then they're also able to see all the things around them, including in their paradise and including you and me. And then they see us perfectly, and they also see how we see ourselves. That's how you get out of the question of how can someone be a Buddha and there still be suffering in the world. Roxana. She's not satisfied. I'm not satisfied either with the party line. But they see perfectly how things become things, and they're not deceived by it. And then they just do the actions that keep creating the things that they want, which is basically bliss and emptiness, right? And they also see how you see you. And then they're like, it's like, there's a great phrase in Spanish. It's called vergüenza ajena. It's like when you're embarrassed for somebody, but from a distance. Like they do something. Yeah, yeah. Again, same thing. Pena ajena. That's nice, Francisco. That's a good T-shirt, right? Like I used to watch this show when I was a kid. It's called The Wonder Years. It was like a kid in high school growing up, and he was always doing embarrassing things, right? And it's that embarrassment you have for other people when you're just like, oh my God, Kevin, can you just like stop? Right. And so it's kind of like that for a Buddha, except for it's like what Francisco said in Spanish very nicely, pena ajena, right? Like pain from afar. Like they're not experiencing your pain directly, but they see that you have it, and then there's a kind of longing for you to not have it, a compassion, right? Still not 100% satisfying, but maybe when we understand things a little bit better, it'll make more sense. So, anyhow, those two, there's two sides to everything, and there's the ultimate side, the fact that nothing is coming from itself, and then the deceptive side, which is deceiving us, deceiving our state of mind. Okay. Now, there's one more vocabulary word we need to learn. And I'm sorry that it's in English. Interpreters, good luck. We have this word ultimate, which is what we just did. And then we have this thing called ultimately. All right. One is a noun or an adjective, the other one is an adverb. And so this is an important philosophical word that people most of the time throw around and misunderstand. It's very simple. Something that is ultimate, highest, that it exists as ultimate reality, right? As something that we understand that doesn't come from its own side. But when we say something is ultimate, when something exists ultimately as an adverb, is that it exists from its own side by definition. Right? And this is a little subtle. So something that's ultimate would be emptiness, for example. The fact that no existing thing has any self-nature of its own. When we say something exists ultimately, we're saying that it does exist from its own side, which equals that it doesn't exist at all. I'll say it again. And then you'll see the relationship, why that word is important. Something that exists ultimately, meaning the highest existence, if it were to be a thing that existed, good luck, right? It means that it exists from its own side by definition. It exists as the ultimate, it exists ultimately. But the ultimate means it doesn't come from itself. So to say that something exists ultimately means it can't exist from its own side at all. It can't exist at all. Because you thought it was there when it wasn't. In the way that you perceive it. And this is where it gets it's so subtle. That's why we spent, I don't know, half an hour in the last class on the extremes. Because it's so easy just to say, well, nothing exists at all. It exists because it's not coming from itself. It doesn't exist at all. Oh, I don't exist at all. Good question, Laura. Emptiness exists. Does emptiness exist? Does not exist ultimately. Emptiness has its own emptiness, first of all. Second of all, emptiness is an absence. then you got to think about it. But we have to be very careful to not go to this place where nothing exists, right? How do you mean? Well, what I mean by that is it doesn't come from its own side. We say for shorthand, well, nothing exists ultimately. But then we get stuck in this idea of cancel, cancel, cancel things that don't exist. And then we just get lost in the fact that we're actually just experiencing hard concrete. Because if you go to that place, that extreme, you're just making the concrete harder. You're getting stuck. You're trying to change something you can't change. Because if you said nothing exists, and then you start trying to do the four powers, or excuse me, the four steps, right? You're all you're focusing on is the fact that something is there that you don't want there, that's there, that you're deceiving yourself that it doesn't exist. How doesn't it exist? So it doesn't exist by itself. It's already independence. And so when we talk about emptiness, when we go in the philosophy so deep, we forget, right? But that's the thing. We're swinging back and forth between both sides, and catch yourself in it. And what is the self that's in it that's stuck? And I can tell you, I can talk to you about it over and over and over again, but ultimately, get it? Ultimately, let me change my word choice. In the end, you have to have the direct experience of seeing yourself doing it. I'm handing you the lock that you have yourself trapped into. I'm handing you the key, but I can't turn that key for you, and I can't push you through the door. You got to walk through the door. You have to unlock your suffering. I can't unlock it for you. I can't. No one can unlock mine. That's very clear. Who's going to save me? No one. Do I have people who are trying? Yes. Hi, Win. It's good to see you. But that's what your teacher does. They hand you the lock, they hand you the key, and they hand you the door. And then they just sit back and wait. They point out the hot coal that you're holding in your hand that you won't let go of. Oh my God, my hand's burning. Oh, really? It's hot. Yes. It hurts. Does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts a lot. Why don't you let it go? I can't. I need my suffering. It's not the words that people use, right? And your hand is just like burning off, and you're like, dude, if you just you know open your hand, it would stop hurting. But the problem with suffering, right? Even if you did open your hand, now you have boils all over your hand and blisters, and your skin's burned. And you thought that, well, I'd let it go yesterday. Why does this still hurt today? I should just hold on to it. Right. Well, you've already been burned. And then, you know, Vajragini will wait until, you unlock that door and you walk through. Right. Because, to a Buddha, time is irrelevant. It's only relevant to you. And then they'll hand you the next door. They'll be like, oh yeah, oh this is the other next this is the next way that you're burning your hand. He And then you eventually you'll wait and just wait and wait and wait until you decide to go through the door. And then you get the next layer. You know, it's the deceived state of mind. And you think that the teacher is also going to do something for you. They cannot do anything for you from their own side, right? They hand you the lock and key. They hand you the door. They take you to it, right? You had the seeds for them to take you there. And then they drop you off at school and they're like, we'll see you when you get back on the bus. Good luck. I'll be here when you get back. How did school go today? Well, I stood at the door all day. Okay, well, let's go back to the door tomorrow. Like you stood on the 10-meter platform looking down to jump into the water. You stood there for 20 years. The experience of jumping off the platform is the same. Whether you do it today or you do it in 20 years, it's up to you. But to a Buddha, time is not important. Okay, we did that, we did that, we did that. We're going to go. We're going to play a little game right now. It's called the 3 attributes of the mind only school. You should know them. You should know them so well that we're going to see them only. I got to do something else first. I do some Tibetan first. All right, here's some Tibetan for you. Dundam, ultimate. Okay, Dundam, ultimate. Okay, then we have Kunsop, deceptive, illusory. Okay, got 2 words here. Dundam, Kunsop. These are good phrases to learn. Kunsam Demba, Guns and Dundam Demba. All right. So now we're going to play our little game. We have Kunzam and we have Dunda. Of the 3 attributes, Kuntaks, Shenwangs, and Yongdrups. All right. Which one in the mind only school is deceptive? It's so easy. I'm not even going to offer money. And that's correct, Anastasia. Constructs. Kuntaks. Kuntak, right? Those are deceptive, right? Those are just they don't exist by definition. So that's an example of deceptive reality. All right, what about dependent things? Shenwangs, are they kunsam or are they dindam? Dependent things, are they things that depend on other things, changing things? Are they ultimate or are they deceptive? Anastasia is no fun. Laura is no fun. Roxana is no fun. They all said the answer correctly. Nobody let me teach. Good job. That's correct. In this school, we have to wear a mind only hat. In this school, the Dundams, the Shenwangs are ultimate. Okay. They do exist by definition. Okay. Careful, we didn't say anything before about emptiness existing by definition in the highest view. Okay, but let's be careful. We are in our mind only hat. All right. Really, Tim? That aligned last night. I was having yesterday, I was having still haven't fixed my eyes. My eyes have not been fixed yet. The label eyeballs are not fixed. So these were aligning last night. Jeez, Tim. Okay. I'm sorry. Like the line here, this has to like this kind of stuff drives me nuts. Okay. Ultimately. Anyway, so third thing, young drupes. Are young drupes totality, are they deceptive or are they ultimate? Da, da, da. Are young drupes ultimate or are they deceptive? Yes, in mind only, they are ultimate. Oops. Okay. So this is how we make the distinction in the mind only school between deceptive things and ultimate things. Again, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about these. Can you guys see you can see yes, thank you. The little red thing, the cursor, right? This is what we're focusing on in the mind only school: names, constructs, the things that we give names to. This is all imaginary to the extent that it's mind only. Not just school, but we'll talk about that near the end of class. All right. Now, there's this whole section in this class about what's an external object, which is why we started the class with this idea of if you change you, have you ever had the experience where if you changed you, the outer world changed? Like immediately, almost like not even overnight, but someone went from being a jerk to the nicest person ever, right? You changed you. Something, the seed shifted so deeply in you that you felt the change and then your outer world changed. Or maybe they changed at the same time, something like that. Right. And so the different schools have different views on what makes for an outer object. Like what is there and what is not there. And as you can probably suspect, the lower schools say there is something there, right? It's there, it's out there, it's hanging out there, right? And as you get more and more subtle, they say different things about it. To where you get, to the lower middle way that says there's an object there that's 50% contributing to its beingness, and then there's 50% that's coming from you. Mind only school says, well, there's a dependent thing there, subject to, it's a changing thing, it's dependent upon other things. And then you bring the kuntak along, right? Then upper middle way goes, well, hold on. Even that 50% is subject to an interpret and subject to being interpreted or thought about or analyzed. That cylinder also, you can start breaking that apart. Then you can start breaking the parts apart, and you finally get to a place where you can't find the object that was there, that you believe was there, from its own side. There's still a pen there, but equally it's a chew toy. All right. But lower middle way, like the description that we use for, when we teach the pen is mainly lower middle way. Because when I put this object, I love how many interpreters have pens hanging out with them. When I put this object down and all the humans and all the dogs and all the beings leave the room, what is there? Right? Your mind, like we say, oh, nothing yet. Nothing's there yet. You can just say nothing is there. But our mind thinks there is an object there and makes it, and that's okay. It's something that's there waiting to be available to be something. You are waiting to be available to be something. Yourself is waiting to be available to be something. Excuse me. Yourself is available to be something. It's just waiting for something to look at it. Not from its own side waiting, but it is available. It's available. It could be a dog, it could be a human, it could be a fish, it could be a hell realm being, it could be a tantric deity. It could be a Buddha. It's available. Lower middle way, your mind goes, well, there's a self there just waiting to be something, depending on seeds. Right? That's more comfortable than saying there isn't even a self there waiting. But that's fine. And that's why we build these interpretations. That's why each of these levels help us understand deeper and deeper. They're not idiots. Like the Abhidharmists are not idiots. Okay. Oh, but it's such a low school. Yeah. Well, guess what? You're a low school. Like a little kid a little kid, insulting another kid. Well, no, I know you are, but what am I? Right? Like, you're an idiot. No, you're the idiot. Right? That's what kids say to each other. Why is there a lower school? Because you lower school. You is lower school. There's a part of you that's lower school. If there wasn't a part of you that wasn't lower school, there wouldn't be a lower school. That's how you solve your pride, Maria. Took me an hour to answer your question, which in relative time scales is not that much. Right? You is that. That's what you are. There's a part of you that is that. Part of you that thinks that your upper middle way is probably just an Abhidharmist or lower. Ouch. Like, why do you think all these great lamas start their books by saying, look, I don't know anything. I'm just a humble monk or humble person. I'm writing this for my own benefit, and maybe it might benefit others. But really, I'm the idiot. I'm the one who doesn't understand. And I'm doing this to help myself for my own benefit. Right? I don't think it's being humble. I think it's being real. I think it's being like, you know, your spiritual pride. Oh, I have realizations. Oh, shut up. Anytime that I've told my teacher about any experiences I've had, they're like, okay. and they just ignore me. I'm like, but, and they're like, shut up, you know, because that's not the point. It's not, the more you know, the understanding that those kinds of judgments are, even towards yourself, are extremely dangerous. Don't tell me you have realizations. Go serve people. Yes, I'd like to hear about the greatness of your practice, and I will celebrate it with you. But it's not a badge of honor. Your badge of honor is, if you actually had the realizations, you would be out there serving more people. You'd be helping more people. You would be kinder. You would be gentler. You would automatically be more humble. Oh, I'm such a good meditator. I meditate every day. Great. I love you. And I do. But how are you with other people? How are you with your own mental afflictions? That's the sign of realizations. How honest are you with yourself? You is an Abhidharmist. Sorry. Okay, here are the levels. I'm going to blow through this in rapid fire. Just take notes, write it on your homework. It takes years to understand. I realized it takes years to understand, so I'm not going to belabor it. And frankly, I don't understand it all either. So sometimes when you don't understand something, you just go fast. No, but no, seriously, it takes time to get it. So lowest school, Abhidharmist, functionalist. Okay. Detailist, excuse me. All right. Next level is Sutras, logic schools. This is Pramana. This is Chichedrak. The key to seeing emptiness is in the second school. Okay. Maybe it's important. Maybe it's important. I spelled Abhidharma. Did I spell that wrong? I think. Okay. Anyway, you get it. That's not how you spell Abhidharma. I think. Having doubts. Oh no, I got it right. There are two H's. Sorry. Okay. Yes, something's wrong. It doesn't matter. The Abhidharma will show you all the things about you and your body that you have to understand don't exist from their own side, and will teach you how the processes work with sense organs and outer objects. You have to learn how it works to be able to deny it. See, third school, mind only. That's what we've been doing mostly in this class. And then there's middle way. And the middle way has two branches, the independent branch and the consequence branch. Yuki, you've got lots of balloons coming up. It's like the third time. All right. And so now there's different ways to look at these schools, and there's different types of people within these schools as well. And so as we're discussing some of these things, the lower middle way, okay, can be divided into two, okay. Those that are more, they lean more towards the sutras understanding. I should have drawn arrows. Okay. And then there's those that lean more towards the mind only understanding. Okay. Oops. All right. So within the independent branch of the middle way, there are some of the practitioners that are more sutrists in their understanding, and there's some practitioners that are more mind only in their understanding. All right. And we're going to describe it briefly. Okay. And it has to do with how they see external objects. Okay. So in the lower school, okay, Abhidharma and Sutras, what does it mean to say it's an external object? So my image here for this is in terms of physicalness, something is an outer object that exists of tiny partless particles, like physical objects that have no side, no width. Okay. You can't divide them anymore. So I used a picture of an atom, which most at some point people thought was not divisible. Okay. Like the fundamental building block of reality, right? That's what you learn in chemistry, right? Periodic table. You have all the different elements, which are the fundamental building blocks of all of physical reality. Put those pieces together and you get all of physical reality, right? Then of course we learned that, atoms have neutrons and protons and electrons. And then you learn that there's even smaller components to each of those. They get very middle way very quickly. But from a science point of view, Abhidharma is pretty close to the way that our science understands things. We still think in science that there are building blocks. Now the building blocks are probabilities. Something like that, right? Sorry, the sun is now. I have to wear sunglasses in my own house. It's kind of fun. So bright here. So that's what they believe. The Sutras and the Abhidharmists believe that there's partless particles, smallest building blocks that make up physical matter. Or time, for example, there's a smallest unit of time that you cannot break down. And really, our world is kind of like that. We're not able to perceive certain smaller units. It's impossible. Right? Like, how does time work? Like we say there's 65 seeds a second going off. Okay, so there's 65 units in every second. Well, what's between those things? We're not even perceiving those 65 seeds going off, first of all, by the way. But if you could you perceive something smaller than that? Right. We have a unit of time called a second. We have a unit of time called a minute, an hour, a day, right? There's a smallest unit in the world is made up of those things. That's what the schools say. That's what we learn when we're kids. How long did it take you to do that? 5 seconds. Fine. Right? What is the world made of? It's made of atoms. What? There's different atoms? Yes. There's iron, there's mercury, there's carbon, there's oxygen, and you put them together and you get different things. Like if you put two oxygens and a hydrogen together, you get water, the life-sustaining liquid on this planet. The life-sustaining liquid I can't see anything, right? The fog right now comes out of my sink, right? It's in my body. There's little partless things called hydrogens and oxygens that when you put them together gives me life. Okay, that's great, wonderful, right? The cool thing is when you take them apart, they don't look like water at all. Isn't it kind of crazy if you think about it? An invisible gas to our eyes, hydrogens and oxygens, right? When you put them together in this one form and they attach to each other, and then you put a bunch of them together, it creates something that's been visible to something that's visible. And you can touch it. I can't. Can you touch the oxygen in the air? No. But I can touch oxygen all day long when it comes out of my sink, when it's attached to a hydrogen molecule. Two of them, actually. Excuse me, it's two hydrogens and one oxygen. Geez, Tim. H2O, come on. Same point, right? You just put one little oxygen with those hydrogens and poof, you can touch it and you can drink it, right? Partless parts. That's the lower school. And that's how we think, right? That's how we think the world is. Okay. So the independent school, all right. The sutrist leaning independence. Okay. These guys, these independents who are sutrists, will say something very similar but slightly different. I'm just going to say it. We're not going to talk too much about it. Actually, I can talk about it for a while, but I want to get through stuff. These sutrist leaning independents will say something exists as an external object, just like the sutrists will say consists of tiny physical particles. But they add one small thing into it. They say with no identifiable or perceptible sides. Right? So what they're saying is there's no perceptible sides, but they do have sides. That's the trick. So in the detailist and sutra school, they say, look, there's particles that are infinitely small. They don't have sides. They can't be divided. And they say that that's ultimate reality. Okay. So in the detailists and the sutras, they're saying external objects are so small, they don't have any sides. They can't be divided like time. And they are ultimate reality. And that's what the world is made of. Okay. So if we can manipulate that, we can make ourselves happy. The independent school that leans towards the sutrists, like leans towards those people, say the same thing. But they say, look, we can't perceive their sides, but they do have some sides. Right. And meaning that sort of similar, like we can't see the quarks inside the protons, but we know that they're there. Right. We can logically go there, but we can't perceive them directly. Right. And this is sort of what closest to science, Western scientific view. Okay. So there's just a slight difference, but it's an important one and it has an important thing for emptiness itself. Now, the mind only school, this is where it gets interesting, is that the mind only school says those external objects don't exist as constructed by those partless particles. Okay. Mind only school will say, look, there's no such thing as that at all. You know, they say that there's no external object that would be the combination of all of those non-existing building blocks. Okay. Because they believe, I'm sorry this is difficult. Just let it sit into your mind and just let it sink in, and eventually it comes out. And there's a reason why we have all of these things. And when you combine them all together, that informs your understanding of emptiness. Okay. But what they say is that those things that you believe are external objects are just constructs of the mind. You're not looking at external objects. You're just looking at your mind. You're looking at the construct. You're never looking at the dependent thing. Okay. And there's a key point here is that you're looking, and if we're not going to spend a lot of time on the kunchi, like what's happening in the refrigerator and with the seeds and the different consciousnesses. Um, you can go to mixed nuts for that. You can go to words classes and understand what those mean. But understand generally, you're looking at the construct, which is in your mind. You're not looking at external objects. You're not doing anything with external objects. It's only your mind. Now, parentheses. They do believe that they're external objects that are built of some kind of building block, but that's not their ultimate nature. They're not focused on those things. Their external objects are not constructed by particles, they're constructed by your kuntaks. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't say whether there's external objects or not. Yes, there's a thing out there that you're doing stuff with. But how does it, the ultimate nature of it is such that, let me get my language right. They become external objects through constructs, which is in your mind. And you believe that it's out there as an external object and not something that's in your mind. Okay. And so then the independent school, those who lean towards the mind only, will say, okay, look, I can get on the side of there being indivisible building blocks that I can't perceive out there, that I can't see that they have sides, but I know that they're there. But the mind only, the independents that lean toward the mind only school will say, well, those things don't exist as external objects from their own side. because there's something in the mind that is creating it. Okay. Remember, the independent school is a 50-50 school. There's something there. Okay. So you can see how all of these pieces start fitting together. Like if you were to meditate on this, maybe we make a meditation of it, of how an external object is an external object depending on what school it's in. It can lead you from you is an abhidharmist to seeing emptiness directly, which automatically makes you a Madhyamikan, provided you have bodhicitta. You are middle way when you see emptiness directly. You understand how things are perfectly coming from you. Now, if you have bodhicitta, then you get to move on. And if you don't, then you have to do some more work. But in the perception of emptiness directly, you are middle way, regardless. Okay. So to be able to kind of like think about what is external and what's in the mind connects us to this idea of, well, what the hell is actually happening? What is actually changing? When a seed opens, what changes? What is it that changes? And so that's where and that's where we hold on, right? This is where we're trying to hold on to something. And how to say it? We don't understand that we're holding on to something that wasn't there to begin with. In the sense of it wasn't there the way we thought it was there. And so each of these steps helps us. It's like unlocking, it's like a combination lock, right? You have to turn the first one, turn the second one, turn the third one, right? And so eventually you're able to get that key out. Right. But it's steps because it's difficult. Right. Because that's how we see things. And the places that we get stuck, we get stuck in the place where how do we say this? The places that trap us the most are the ones that we've been dealing with since the beginningless time, where we just thought it was there on its own and had nothing to do with us. And if you can catch yourself thinking it has nothing to do with your seeds, then you can change it. But how do you see yourself and how do you see the hard concrete in your relationship to the external and the internal? That's key to be able to make those changes. We had a little conversation last Thursday, about karma blaming other people. Like, oh, that's just your karma, Maria. So I was just trying to find someone who would who would accept such criticism. That's your karma. No, that's not Maria's karma. Yes, Maria is a separate being who's separate from me, external from me, who has separate seeds from me. But no, it's not your karma, Maria. I'm the one who is seeing a being who has separate seeds, who has a certain way of being and has separate karma. It's not her problem, it's my problem. Oh, Tim, if I change my seeds, do I change her seeds? No. Because if a Buddha could do that, they would have already done it. But whose problem is it if I see someone who's suffering? My problem. So that's why I need to help Maria. And that's where we link compassion into all of this. It's actually stone cold logic, frankly. I have to. I have no other choice. If I deny that she needs help, then all I'm basically saying is that she's out there on her own by herself, independent of me, and she can just go and suffer by herself in her room. Because there's nothing for me to do. Can't do anything. Or can I? Right? Change you, change your world. And then that's where you have to exist in the ambiguity of that. Because it's not one way or the other. Have a nice day. I will see you all on Thursday. Thanks for joining. We didn't finish all the content in this class. We'll finish it tomorrow or Thursday. Very soon, I believe, we're almost got all the details ready for ACI 16, 17, and 18. Anastasia, I know I owe you some work, some thoughts. So take a nice break. We'll be back in a half hour to learn more about the self that you need to deny in order to see emptiness directly. So thank you all for coming. Wonderful to see all of you. And say goodbye to each other and see you in a half hour or next week.
Thank you for teaching. Goodbye, everyone.
Gracias.
Thank you so much for beautiful teaching.
Bye
bye. Bye bye.
Master Dobram, so much.
Bye bye.
Gracias, Tim.
Yes.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.
Teacher, please stay.
Thank you.
Thank you. More to me.
Francisco, we're going to make that t-shirt. Pena ajena. Yes. By the way, if you're hanging out, I've been asking for this for years and nobody wants to help me with it. So I'm asking you to find someone who wants to do this. I want someone to run the 5 Houses merchandising department. Nobody seems to understand that merchandise. What's that a quote from? Spaceballs. Come on. Great spoof on Star Wars. Merchandise is what makes money. We could do a lot more if we had a merchandising department that sells stuff, because people like to buy stuff. They don't want to study emptiness. They want to buy things. So if there's anyone in the universe who wants to help ACI 5 Houses build a merchandising department with stuff to sell, who love like building sales funnels and gets excited every time that invoice comes in, that payment comes in, and they just enjoy like the thrill of sales, right? I hate sales, if anyone hasn't noticed. Right? That's why I'm not doing it, because I'm not a salesperson in that way, right? So if you know anybody who's passionate about advertising and selling product, the markup on these products is tremendous. People will buy a $40 sweatshirt that costs $5 to make. If you write the word pena ajena on it and sell it for $40, we make $35. You sell a lot of those, you make a lot of money. And I'm not trying to make money. I'm just trying to like pay salaries, pay interpreters, expand ACI, fund our new learning platform, fund our app that we're in the middle of developing. It just costs money. Why do I have to have a world that just costs money? Maybe I can change that seed. For now, for now. Oh, good. Francisco's a little bit more noble. It helps students come to events for free. If we sell more t-shirts, we can make our events cost less. The irony of capitalism is that we will charge more and more people will come. And we'll offer more scholarships. Okay, I'm going to go take a break. Bye.